everyone, and welcome back to another ASMR True Crime Story Time. The case I have for you today is about the serial killer Larry Elar. His killing spree happened in 4 different states and across 14 counties, and it would take 10 corpses before the police conceded that there was a serial killer. And even after having a primary suspect, 13 more would be killed before he was finally captured. On October the 23rd, 1982, the mutilated remains of 19-year-old Stephen Crockett was found in a cornfield in Kankakee in Illinois, merely 15 miles east of Indiana and 40 miles south of Chicago. One dead body was alarming, but it was not enough to cause a commotion, especially not outside the Kankakee area. On December the 25th of the same year, the body of a second victim, John Johnson, was recovered near Lowell, Indiana, some 35 miles away from where Stephen's body was found. 25-year-old John was reported missing 2 months prior from the Chicago's Uptown district where drifters often resided. 2 bodies in 2 areas were not easy to correlate, especially since the FBI wouldn't computerize information for unsolved murders until June of 1984. So at that point, the police were investigating 2 separate cases. Unknown to them, the serial killer was a generous man, so he would soon make more of his kills, sending a message to the police that a man like him existed. On December the 28th, 2 new bodies were recovered. One was of 23-year-old Stephen Egan from Terry Hall, was also wearing an unfamiliar pair of white socks. After him, Jay Reynolds, 26, was killed on March the 21st, and his body was found in Lafayette County a little over 2 weeks later on the 8th of April. Several construction workers from Lake County found the body of Gusto Herrera near the Wisconsin border. Gustivo had fathered 2 children, but residents attested that he was also a frequent visitor of gay bars. The serial killer also severed one of his arms and had removed it from the area where he was found. After them, 3 more victims were killed, all of whom were homosexuals. The last of the 3, Daniel McNeve, 21, was from Henderson County, which didn't have their own pathologist. For the second time, a body was sent to Dr. Pless in Bloomington Hospital. When he reiterated that the crime was performed by familiar hands, the police didn't ignore him. This time, they finally listened. Accepting that the serial killer would make his next move soon, law enforcement officials from different counties in Indiana started discussing the highway murders. They decided to create a task force named Central Indiana Multi-Agency Investigative Team, headed by Lieutenant Jerry Campbell from Minneapolis Police Department. Lieutenant Campbell was assisted by Sergeant Frank Love. On their second meeting, the task force already had a name for their primary suspect, Larry Eiler, 31 years old. This suspect was raised by a caller from Indianapolis who pointed to Larry as the man responsible for the attack on Mark Henry, a homosexual from Terre Haute. According to the informant's story, Larry Eiley gave a lift to Mark, and when the latter refused Larry's sexual advances, the suspect then became violent. He stopped his vehicle and forced Mark to lie supine on the back of the bed of the pickup, where he handcuffed him. While Larry was stroking Mark's body with a knife, the victim managed to escape, but when he was caught, Larry stabbed him in the chest, puncturing a lung. After the attack, Mark played dead, and Larry left to go away. As if he knew how the law would play out, Larry Eiley went to the nearest house and confessed his crime. He then went back to his pickup as he waited for the police to arrest him. The sympathetic judge reduced the previous bond from $50,000 to just $10,000, and one of Larry's friends paid the surety of $1,000 for his release. Worse, when Mark Henry was paid with $2,500, he withdrew the case against Larry completely. The fact that Larry Eiler was capable of assault against gay men was enough for the police to begin tailing him. They found out that he came from humble beginnings. His parents divorced while he was still a toddler. A high school dropout, Larry was only able to enter college by passing his GED. As it was, he drifted in and out of college from 1974 to 1978, but he eventually quit without a degree. At the time of the investigation, he lived in Thierry Horn with Robert David Little, a university professor. His work in a liquor store was only part-time, but he often went away for some reason unknown to anyone but him. When Larry murdered Ralph Coles from Chicago, the Illinois police found that there was an eerie connection between all of the victims. For an instance, 4 of the victims, Crockett, Herrera, Coles, and Johnson, all lived in the Uptown neighborhood in Chicago. In fact, Herrera and Coles were neighbors, only 2 doors away from each other. At this point, Illinois police were tipped off that Indiana was also looking for a serial killer with the same MO. The 2 departments agreed that Larry Eiley could be their man, and together they tapped Larry's every move, but no murder was caught under their watch. Larry was spotted in Lowell, where he was pursuing a man to have sex with him in exchange for money. Albeit no evidence was obtained, the Indiana police still arrested Larry on September the 30th, 1983. They also searched his pickup and the home where he lived together with Robert Little. There they found that several calls had been made to the Little household from several different counties, or areas where the crimes had happened. 3 other pieces of evidence were recovered, each one consistent with the Ralph Coles murder. They found his boots, which had a plaster cast similar to the crime scene, knife with type A, which was Ralph's blood, and handcuffs which matched Ralph's wounds. Despite all this, the evidence was still inconclusive and hence was not enough. When Larry's lawyer learned of this, he insisted that the police in Indiana had violated his rights when they arrested his client without a proper warrant. The judge sided with the defense team and the law authorities, who believed that Larry Eiley was the highway killer, and they could only watch as the man was freed. However, conclusive evidence was found on August the 21st, 1984, when a janitor in an apartment in West Sherman Street in Chicago found several trash bags containing severed body parts. Upon superficial inspection, one of the tenants reported that a man named Larry Eiley dropped it in the dumpster. At this point, Larry's conviction was already a foregone conclusion, but he still